The helicopter blades cut through the rain like knives, and she didn't flinch. Blood still stained her scrubs from a surgery she wasn't supposed to perform. Mud caked her boots from a parking lot she'd been thrown out of an hour ago, and now 5 soldiers in full combat gear were kneeling in front of her. "Lieutenant," one whispered, his voice cracking. "They're dying." The hospital staff pressed against the glass doors, watching in disbelief as their incompetent nurse, the quiet girl they'd mocked for months, listened to coordinates being barked through a radio. She'd been fired for saving a life. Now she was being begged to save 6 more. Nobody at Riverside General knew who she really was, but they were about to find out. If you want to see how far justice can fall and how high it can rise, stay with me until the very end. Drop a like and comment what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. Rain hammered Riverside City with the kind of violence that made people pull their coats tighter and walk faster. The streets were slick with oil and garbage, reflecting neon signs from corner stores that never seemed to close. It was a Tuesday night in late October, and the storm had settled over the city like something with weight. Inside Riverside General Hospital, the emergency department hummed with its usual chaos. Monitors beeped in overlapping rhythms. A drunk man shouted at a triage nurse. Someone's child screamed from behind a curtain. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everything in a sickly yellow glow that made everyone look half dead, even when they weren't. Nurse Emma Caldwell moved through it all like a shadow. 29 years old, slight build, brown hair pulled back in a ponytail that never stayed neat past the first hour of her shift. She had the kind of face people forgot as soon as she left the room. Soft features, pale skin, eyes that didn't meet yours unless you forced them to. She'd been working at Riverside General for 8 months, and in that time she'd learned to keep her head down. The doctors didn't like nurses who spoke up. The other nurses didn't like anyone who made them look bad. So Emma stayed quiet, did her job, and tried not to get noticed. It wasn't working. "Caldwell?" The voice cut across the department like a whip. Dr. Victor Hale stood near the central station, his white coat spotless despite the chaos around him. Tall, graying at the temples, the kind of man who spoke with his chin slightly raised so you had to look up at him. "Where's the IV? Start on bed 7. I was just isn't good enough." He didn't wait for her to finish. "If you can't keep up with basic tasks, maybe you should consider a different career." A few nurses nearby glanced over, then quickly looked away. Emma felt her face burn, but said nothing. She walked to bed 7, a middle-aged woman with chest pain, and started the IV line with hands that didn't shake despite wanting to. "Useless," she heard someone mutter. One of the other nurses. Emma didn't look up to see who. The shift dragged on. A stabbing victim came in around 8, blood everywhere, shouting in Spanish while his girlfriend sobbed in the waiting room. Emma helped hold him down while Dr. Hale barked orders and complained about the man's poor life choices. 2 overdoses arrived back-to-back around 9:30. Then a car accident. Then a kid with a broken arm whose parents screamed at each other the entire time. Emma moved through it mechanically. Start the line, draw the blood, check the vitals. Don't speak unless spoken to. Don't suggest anything. Don't question anything. But around 11, something shifted. The ambulance radio crackled to life. "Riverside General, this is Unit 12. We're inbound with a 23-year-old male, unresponsive, suspected fentanyl overdose. ETA 3 minutes. Dr. Hale was elbow deep in the stabbing victim, so the charge nurse pointed at Emma. "You're up. Get a room ready." Emma nodded and moved fast. Bay 4. She wheeled in the crash cart, prepped the Narcan, laid out the airway kit. Her hands worked on autopilot, muscle memory from somewhere deeper than 8 months at Riverside General. The doors burst open. 2 paramedics rushed in with a gurney. The patient was blue around the lips, chest barely moving. Skinny kid. Track marks up both arms, pupils pinpoint. "No pulse," one paramedic said. "We've been bagging him for 4 minutes. Gave 2 milligrams Narcan in the field. No response." "Get him on the monitor," Emma said, her voice steadier than it should have been. "Start compressions." The team moved. Chest compressions started. The monitor showed a slow, erratic rhythm. Emma pushed another dose of Narcan. Nothing. The kid's lips stayed blue. Dr. Hale appeared in the doorway, gloves still bloody from the other room. "What's the story?" "Fentanyl overdose," Emma said. "No response to Narcan. Airways compromised." Hale stepped in. Assess the situation in 2 seconds. Intubate him. Get me a 7.5 tube. Emma reached for the intubation kit, but something felt wrong. The kid's chest wasn't moving right, too stiff. When she squeezed the bag, the resistance was off. Doctor, I think... You think? Hale's voice dripped contempt. I don't pay you to think. Hand me the laryngoscope. Emma hesitated. Her fingers hovered over the equipment. She'd seen this before. Not here. Somewhere else. A different place, different circumstances, but the same deadly problem. Doctor, his airway might be... Caldwell, if you can't follow simple instructions, step aside. Hale grabbed the laryngoscope and moved in. He positioned the blade, trying to visualize the vocal cords. Emma watched his face tighten with frustration. I can't see anything. Suction. Someone handed him the suction catheter. He tried again. Failed. The monitor showed the kid's oxygen saturation dropping. 80%, 75. The alarm screamed. God damn it. Hale tried a third time, jamming the blade deeper. The kid's lips were turning darker. 70%. 65. Emma's training screamed at her. Not the training from Riverside General, the other training, the one she never talked about. Doctor, stop. Hale froze. Everyone froze. You didn't tell Dr. Victor Hale to stop. Excuse me? His voice went quiet, the dangerous kind of quiet. His airways obstructed, Emma said. The words came out firmer than she intended. Likely from aspiration during the overdose. You're not going to get a tube past it. He needs a surgical airway. A surgical airway? Hale straightened up, laryngoscope still in hand. You're suggesting I perform a cricothyrotomy in the ED because you, a nurse with less than a year here, think you know better than me. I'm saying if you don't, he's going to die in the next 60 seconds. The room went silent except for the monitor alarm. 60%. 58. The kid's skin was gray now. Hale's jaw tightened. Get out. Doctor. Get out. He turned to another nurse. Someone who actually knows their place, now. Emma didn't move. She watched the monitor. 55%. The kid's heart rate was dropping too. Bradycardia setting in. She made a choice. Emma grabbed the cricothyrotomy kit from the crash cart, shouldered past Hale, and moved to the patient's neck. Her hands worked with a speed and precision that didn't match the timid nurse everyone thought they knew. Caldwell, step back right now, or I'll have security. She tuned him out, palpated the landmarks, found the cricothyroid membrane, made the incision in one clean motion. Blood welled up, but she didn't hesitate. Inserted the tube, connected the bag, squeezed. The kid's chest rose. Actually rose. The monitor responded immediately. Oxygen saturation climbing, 60%. 65. 70. Emma secured the tube with hands that had done this before. Many times before. The kid's color started improving. The alarm stopped screaming. She stepped back. Blood on her gloves, the room silent. Dr. Hale stared at her like she'd just sprouted wings. You just performed a surgical procedure without authorization. He's breathing. That's not the point. Hale's voice rose. You overstepped your authority. You undermined me in front of my staff. You saved his life, one of the paramedics muttered. Hale's head snapped toward the paramedic, then back to Emma. His face was red now. My office. Now. The charge nurse touched Emma's arm. You should... I said now. Hale ripped off his gloves and stormed out. Emma followed. She was aware of every eye on her, the other nurses, the residents, even the patients who were conscious. She kept her face neutral, but her heart was hammering. Hale's office was small and cramped, filled with certificates on the walls proving how important he was. He slammed the door behind her. Do you have any idea what you just did? I saved... You assaulted a patient. He was pacing now. That's what this will be called. Assault. Battery. Practicing medicine without a license. I could have you arrested. His SATs were in the 50s, another 30 seconds, and I don't care. Hale stopped pacing, turned to face her. This hospital has protocols, a chain of command. You're a nurse, you take orders, you don't give them, and you certainly don't perform surgical procedures. Emma felt something inside her shift, a wall coming down that she'd built carefully over the past 8 months. So you would have let him die to protect your ego? The words hung in the air. Hale's expression went from angry to cold. Pack your things. You're done. What? You're fired. Effective immediately. I'll have security escort you out. You can't. I can. I will. And I'll make sure no hospital in this city ever hires you again. He opened the door. Get out of my emergency department. Emma stood there for 5 seconds that felt like 5 hours. Then she turned and walked out. The department had gone quiet. Everyone was watching. Emma moved to the staff locker room, aware of the whispers following her. She changed out of her scrubs, stuffed her belongings into a backpack. Her hands were shaking now. One of the younger nurses, Kelly, she thought her name was, appeared in the doorway. Emma, you don't. Emma pulled on her jacket. It's fine. It's not fine. Dr. Hale was wrong. Everyone knows it. Doesn't matter. Emma zipped the backpack. He's the doctor. I'm just the nurse nobody wanted. She walked out through the emergency department one last time, past the bay where the kid was still alive, breathing through the tube she'd placed, past the other nurses who wouldn't meet her eyes, past Dr. Hale, who stood at the central station with his arms crossed, watching her leave with an expression of grim satisfaction. The automatic doors opened. Rain hit her face. It was colder now, the kind of rain that soaked through everything. Emma walked across the parking lot toward the bus stop. Her car had died 2 weeks ago, and she hadn't had the money to fix it. Behind her, Riverside General glowed like a monument to all the things wrong with the world. Her phone buzzed, probably her roommate asking when she'd be home. Emma pulled it out, but the screen showed an unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her thumb hit the green button. Hello? Silence. Then a voice. Male. Rough. Is this Emma Caldwell? Who's asking? I need to confirm your identity. Emma Caldwell, age 29, last known address. I'm not giving you my address. Who is this? A pause. Ma'am, this is Chief Warrant Officer Marcus Webb with Naval Special Warfare Group 3. We need to verify we're speaking with Lieutenant Emma Caldwell, formerly of the Special Operations Medical Support Element. Emma stopped walking. The rain poured down. Traffic hissed past on the street. I don't know what you're talking about. Ma'am, we know you've been using your civilian credentials, but this is an emergency situation. You have the wrong person. Her voice came out flat. I'm a nurse. That's all. Lieutenant, there's no lieutenant here. Don't call this number again. She hung up. Stood there in the rain, phone still clutched in her hand. Her heart was racing. After 3 years, she thought they'd stopped looking. Thought she'd buried that part of her life deep enough that it couldn't be found. The phone rang again. Same unknown number. Emma stared at it. Let it ring 4 times. 5. 6. Then she answered. I said, 6 operators are going to die in the next 4 hours if we don't find you. The voice was different now, younger, desperate. Please. I know you left. I know you had reasons, but they're bleeding out and I don't have the training for this, and you're the only person within 200 miles who can help them. Emma closed her eyes. The rain ran down her face. I don't do that work anymore. They're dying. There are other medics. You don't understand. The voice cracked. It's not just trauma. It's complicated. Internal bleeding, crush injuries, spinal involvement. The kind of thing you specialized in. The kind of thing that got you the nickname. Emma's jaw tightened. Don't. Please, Ghost. They need you. She hadn't heard that name in 3 years. Ghost. Because she moved through war zones like she wasn't there. Because she could stabilize someone in conditions that should have been impossible. Because she'd saved so many lives that the operators started to think she was something more than human. She'd hated that name. Still did. Where are they? The words came out before she could stop them. I'm sending coordinates now. We'll have transport to you in 3 minutes. I didn't say. 3 minutes, Lieutenant. Please don't let them die. The call ended. Emma looked down at her phone. A text appeared with GPS coordinates. Then another message. Rooftop extraction. Mercy General helipad. She was 8 blocks from Mercy General. The rain was getting worse. Emma started walking, then jogging, then running. She didn't know why she was running. She'd left that life, made the choice, walked away from the military, from the operations, from the blood and screaming, and the way nothing you did was ever quite enough. She'd wanted normal, quiet, a life where the worst thing that happened was a rude doctor. But 6 people were dying. Emma ran faster. The streets were nearly empty. A few cars passed, headlights cutting through the rain. She jumped a puddle, nearly slipped, kept going. Her backpack bounced against her spine. Her lungs burned. She reached Riverside General, a smaller hospital on the east side of the city. The helipad was on the roof. Emma found the stairwell, took the steps 2 at a time. 4 flights. 5. 6. Her legs were screaming by the time she hit the roof access door. She burst out into the storm. The helipad was empty. Rain pounded the concrete. City lights sprawled below, blurred by the weather. Emma stood there, gasping, water streaming down her face. Maybe she'd been wrong. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe thunder. Except it wasn't thunder. Emma looked up. 2 black helicopters materialized from the storm, flying so low she felt the rotor wash before she saw them. Military birds, unmarked, the kind that didn't show up on civilian radar. They came in fast, one hovering while the other touched down 20 feet away. The side door slid open. 3 figures jumped out, moving with the kind of precision that didn't exist outside very specific communities. They ran toward her. Full combat gear, weapons, plates. The lead figure was massive, broad-shouldered, face hidden behind a balaclava. He stopped 3 feet away, looked at her. A civilian nurse in a soaked jacket, no gear, no credentials, nothing to prove she was anything other than what she appeared to be. Then he dropped to one knee. The other 2 followed. "Ma'am," the big one said. His voice was rough, strained. "We need your hands." Emma stared down at them. 3 of the most dangerous men in the world, kneeling in the rain in front of her. "Where are they?" she asked. "Offshore, vessel took damage during an operation. Multiple casualties, critical condition." "What kind of injuries?" "Blast trauma. Internal bleeding, at least 2 with suspected spinal compromise. Our medic's doing what he can, but..." The big one's voice faltered. "He's in over his head, ma'am." "They all are." Emma looked at the helicopter, then back at the 3 soldiers kneeling in front of her. She thought about Dr. Hale, about being fired, about the way everyone at Riverside General had looked at her like she was nothing. Then she thought about 6 people bleeding out on a damaged ship while someone who wasn't trained for this tried desperately to save them. "Get up," Emma said quietly, "and get me to them." The soldiers rose. The big one gestured toward the helicopter. "This way, ma'am." Emma ran with them across the helipad. The rotor wash nearly knocked her sideways. Strong hands helped her into the bird. She strapped in as the helicopter lifted off, the city dropping away below. Inside, the cabin was cramped and loud. The 3 soldiers sat across from her. One of them handed her a headset. "ETA 14 minutes, a voice said in her ear. The pilot. "Weather's getting worse. Might be a rough ride." Emma nodded, looked at the soldiers. Even with their faces covered, she could see the tension, the fear. "Tell me everything," she said. "How many casualties? What happened?" The big one leaned forward. 6 injured, the op went sideways, explosive breach went wrong, caught our team in a confined space. Brennan, our medic, he's good. But this is, he shook his head, "this is ghost level bad, ma'am." That name again. Emma pushed it aside. "Vitals? Who's priority?" 2 priority red, 4 priority yellow. The reds are... He paused. "One's got abdominal bleeding Brennan can't control. The other's got a spinal injury, can't feel his legs. Brennan's terrified to move him." Emma's mind was already working through the procedures. Tourniquets wouldn't help with abdominal bleeding. She'd need to pack the wound, maybe use a hemostatic agent if they had any. The spinal injury was worse. Moving someone with an unstable spine the wrong way could paralyze them permanently or kill them. "What equipment do you have?" "Standard IFAC plus enhanced trauma supplies. Brennan's got some surgical instruments. We can..." "Not enough." Emma cut him off. "Tell your pilot to contact the vessel. I need a complete inventory of every medical supply they have. Every bandage, every drug, every piece of equipment, and I need it before we land." The soldier relayed the message. Through the headset, Emma heard rapid conversation, call signs she didn't recognize, voices tight with stress. The helicopter banked hard. Emma grabbed a handle to steady herself. Through the window, she saw nothing but dark water and storm clouds. "Ma'am?" One of the other soldiers spoke up. Young voice. "Is it true what they say about Operation Pale Horse?" Emma didn't answer. Because Brennan said, "He said you stabilized 8 casualties in the middle of a firefight with nothing but duct tape and a field kit. Said you performed surgery in a helicopter while taking fire." Brennan exaggerates. "He said you saved his life. Twice." Emma looked at the young soldier. Couldn't see his face behind the balaclava, but she could hear the hope in his voice. The belief that she could fix this, that she was some kind of miracle worker. She'd never been good at miracles, just good at not giving up. "How far?" she asked the pilot. 7 minutes. 7 minutes. Emma closed her eyes, ran through the procedures in her head. ABCs. Airway, breathing, circulation. Triage the casualties. Priority red first. Control the bleeding. Stabilize the spine. Keep them alive long enough to get to real help. Her hands weren't shaking anymore. That surprised her. Back at Riverside General, they'd shaken all the time. But now, flying through a storm toward 6 dying men, they were steady. Maybe that said something about her. Nothing good. The helicopter suddenly dropped, caught in turbulence. Emma's stomach lurched. The soldiers didn't react. They'd been through worse. 2 minutes, the pilot said. "I'm getting visual on the vessel. It's... damn. Visibility's almost 0. Emma opened her eyes, leaned forward to look through the cockpit window. Through the rain, she could just barely make out a dark shape on the water. A boat. No, a small ship. Maybe 70 feet long. Even from a distance, she could see damage. Smoke rising despite the rain. The deck was tilted at an angle that looked wrong. "They're evacuating non-essential personnel," the pilot said, "but they can't move the casualties. Too unstable." The helicopter descended. The ship grew larger. Emma could see figures moving on deck now, shadows in the storm. Emergency lights flickered. 30 seconds. Prepare for landing. The soldiers stood, checked their gear with practiced efficiency. One of them looked at Emma. "Ma'am, when we touch down, stay low and follow us. The deck's unstable." Emma nodded. The helicopter flared, rotors screaming. Emma felt the skids touch down. The side door flew open. Wind and rain blasted in. "Go, go, go!" The soldiers jumped out. Emma followed, keeping low like she'd been taught years ago. Her feet hit the deck. It was slick, tilted. She nearly fell but caught herself. Someone grabbed her arm. "This way!" They ran across the deck. Emma glimpsed other faces, crew members, maybe contractors, all of them looking at her with a mixture of confusion and desperate hope. They reached a hatch, down a ladder. The noise of the storm faded, replaced by the groan of damaged metal and the hiss of emergency systems. The corridor was narrow, lit by red emergency lights. Water dripped from burst pipes. Emma followed the soldiers deeper into the vessel. Then she heard it. Screaming. Not the screaming of pain. The screaming of someone who knows death is close and can't stop it. They burst through a doorway into what looked like a small medical bay. It was chaos. Blood everywhere. 6 men on the floor, on stretchers, against the walls. And in the middle of it all, a young man in bloodied gear, hands covered in red, face pale and streaked with sweat. He looked up as they entered, saw Emma. "Oh, thank God." His voice broke. "Thank God. I thought... I can't..." He gestured helplessly at the casualties around him. "I can't save them all. I don't know what to do." Emma stepped into the room, looked at the 6 injured men, assessed in seconds. 2 were pale, barely conscious. Priority red. One clutching his abdomen, blood seeping through bandages that weren't holding. The other staring at the ceiling, unable to move his legs. 4 others. Alert but injured. Priority yellow. She'd get to them after. Emma turned to the young medic, Brennan. "You're doing fine, but I'm here now." She stripped off her jacket, grabbed the nearest pair of gloves. "Someone give me a situation report, now." And just like that, the timid nurse from Riverside General disappeared. In her place stood someone else entirely, someone who'd been forged in places where hesitation meant death and mistakes couldn't be undone. Lieutenant Emma Caldwell was back, and 6 men were going to live because of it. The first casualty was a man named Torres. Mid-30s, built like a brick wall, now pale as paper with his hands pressed against his abdomen where blood seeped through makeshift bandages. His breathing came in short, shallow gasps. Emma knelt beside him. "Torres, I need you to move your hands." "Can't." His voice was barely a whisper. Brennan said keep pressure. Brennan was right, but I need to see what we're working with. Emma looked up at the young medic. "How long has he been bleeding?" 40 minutes, maybe more. Brennan's hands trembled. "I packed it twice. Keep soaking through." Emma peeled back the bandages. The wound was ugly. A jagged laceration across the lower right quadrant, deep enough that she could see muscle tissue. Not a clean cut. Something had torn through him. The bleeding was steady, not spurting, which meant they'd gotten lucky with the major vessels. But internal damage was a different story. "Get me Quick Clot, 2 packets, and I need better light." Someone scrambled to comply. Emma pressed fresh gauze against the wound while Torres groaned through clenched teeth. The ship tilted slightly, and she had to brace herself to keep from sliding. "Stay with me, Torres. You're not dying on a Tuesday." "It's Tuesday?" He tried to laugh. It came out as a cough. "Yeah. Worst day of the week. You're not giving it the satisfaction." The Quick Clot arrived. Emma tore open the packets, packed the wound with the hemostatic agent, applied pressure. The substance would promote rapid clotting, buy them time. She worked fast, her hands moving with a precision that came from muscle memory deeper than thought. "Brennan, talk to me about the spinal injury." The young medic moved to the second priority red. A younger operator, maybe 25, with dark hair and eyes wide with terror. "That's Kowalski. Took the worst of the blast, slammed into a bulkhead. He says he can't feel anything below his waist." Emma kept pressure on Torres while assessing Kowalski from across the small space. The kid was lying flat. Someone had been smart enough not to move him. But his positioning was wrong. Slight rotation in the hips. If his spine was fractured, that rotation could be compressing the cord. "Kowalski, can you wiggle your toes?" "I don't know. I can't tell if they're moving." "Someone check." One of the soldiers pulled off Kowalski's boots. "Nothing, ma'am. No movement." Emma's jaw tightened. Spinal cord injury. No sensation below the waist. They needed imaging to know how bad it was, but imaging wasn't happening on a damaged vessel in the middle of a storm. She'd have to stabilize him blind. "I need a backboard and a cervical collar if you've got one." "We don't have a backboard," Brennan said miserably. "Then make one. Find anything rigid. Plywood, metal sheet, I don't care. And get me padding. Towels, blankets, anything soft." The crew scattered. Emma checked Torres's abdomen again. The bleeding had slowed. Not stopped, but slowed. Good enough for now. She moved to Kowalski, knelt beside him. The kid was breathing too fast, panic setting in. "Hey, look at me!" Emma's voice cut through his fear. "I know you're scared, but I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" "I can't feel my legs." "I know. We're going to fix that." "You can't fix a broken spine with—" "Kowalski." Emma leaned closer. "I've put people back together in worse conditions than this. You're not special. You're just next on my list, so shut up and let me work." The kid blinked. Then, incredibly, he almost smiled. "Yes, ma'am." Someone returned with a sheet of metal plating torn from somewhere in the ship. Emma examined it. Not ideal, but it would work. She directed them to pad it with towels, creating a makeshift backboard. "Okay, we're going to do a log roll. I need 4 people. 1 at the head, 1 at the shoulders, 1 at the hips, 1 at the legs. When I say move, we all move together. Kowalski doesn't twist. Not even a fraction. Everyone understand?" Nods all around. Emma positioned herself at Kowalski's head. "On 3. 1, 2, 3. They moved as a unit. Kowalski came up on his side, Emma keeping his head and neck perfectly aligned. The makeshift backboard slid underneath. They lowered him down. "Good. Now, we're going to immobilize his spine. I need rolled towels on both sides of his head, and something to strap him down." While they worked on that, Emma turned her attention to the other 4 casualties. Priority yellow meant stable but injured. She moved fast, checking each one. First was a man with a compound fracture in his left forearm, bone visible through torn skin. He'd tied it off himself with a belt as a splint. Crude but effective. "Nice work," Emma told him. "Been through worse." His voice was steady despite the sweat on his face. Second casualty had shrapnel wounds across his back and shoulders. Superficial mostly. Painful but not life-threatening. Someone had already pulled the larger pieces out. Emma cleaned and dressed the wounds, noting the way he didn't flinch. Third and fourth were both concussed. One had a gash across his forehead that needed stitches. The other was vomiting into a bucket, which meant potential brain injury, but there wasn't much she could do about that right now beyond monitoring. Emma worked through them systematically. 15 minutes. 20. The ship groaned around them, metal protesting. Water dripped from overhead pipes. The emergency lights flickered twice. "How's Torres?" she called out without looking up. "Bleeding stopped," Brennan reported. "Vitals they're not great, but they're holding." "Good. Start an IV if you haven't already. Normal saline, wide open. He's lost a lot of blood." "On it." Emma finished with the concussion cases and returned to Kowalski. The kid was strapped to the backboard now, immobilized. His eyes tracked her as she knelt beside him. "Tell me the truth," he said quietly. "Am I going to walk again?" Emma met his gaze. "I don't know. The cord might be compressed, might be damaged. We won't know until we get you to a real hospital with real imaging. But I've seen people with no sensation come back fully. I've also seen people who don't. The body's weird like that." "That's not very reassuring." "I'm not here to make you feel better. I'm here to keep you alive." She checked his pupils, equal and reactive. "How's your breathing?" "Fine, I think." "Pain anywhere other than your back?" "My head hurts, and my ribs." Emma palpated his chest. He winced when she pressed on the left side. Possible rib fracture. She'd need to watch for pneumothorax. Collapsed lung on top of everything else would be just their luck. The ship lurched suddenly. Emma grabbed the edge of the backboard to keep from falling. Someone shouted from the corridor. Then the lights went out completely. Emergency lighting kicked in 3 seconds later, dimmer than before. Red glow that made everything look like a horror movie. "What was that?" Brennan's voice cracked. One of the soldiers, the big one from the helipad, appeared in the doorway. "We're taking on water. Engineering's working on it, but we need to evacuate these men. Now." Emma stood. "They're not stable enough to move. Ma'am, with respect, if we don't move them, they're going to drown." "How long do we have?" 10 minutes? Maybe 15. Emma looked around the small medical bay. 6 casualties in various states of injury. Torres was still bleeding internally, just slower. Kowalski couldn't be moved without risking permanent paralysis. The others were mobile but compromised. "We can't fly them out in this weather," she said. "No, ma'am, but there's a frigate 12 miles south. They're sending a boat. We transfer everyone to that. They take us to shore." "A boat?" Emma stared at him. "You want to put a man with a spinal injury on a boat in the middle of a storm?" "I want to put him on a boat instead of at the bottom of the ocean." "Fair point." Emma turned to Brennan. "Okay, new plan. We need to prep them for transport. Torres gets a pressure dressing and we pray it holds. Kowalski stays on the backboard. We strap him down so he can't move no matter what. Everyone else gets stabilized as best we can. Move." They worked fast. Emma's hands flew through the tasks. Secure the IV lines. Double-check the bandages. Make sure nothing was going to come loose when they hit the waves. The ship tilted again. Water was coming in somewhere. Emma could hear it, a distant rushing sound that was getting louder. 5 minutes. "Torres, how you doing?" "Living the dream, ma'am." His voice was weaker now, blood pressure dropping. She needed to get fluids into him faster, but they were already running wide open. "Kowalski?" "Still can't feel my legs." "Good. Means you're consistent." Someone laughed. Gallows humor, but it cut the tension just enough. The soldier appeared again. "Boat's here. We need to go." Emma grabbed her jacket. "Okay, priority Reds first, Torres, then Kowalski. Everyone else follows. Brennan, you stay with Torres. I'll take Kowalski. Nobody moves unless I say." They formed a chain. 4 men lifted Torres on his stretcher, moving carefully through the tilted corridor. Emma followed with Kowalski's backboard, along with 3 others helping to carry him. The remaining casualties walked, supported by crew members. The corridor was ankle-deep in water now, cold seawater. Emma's boots splashed through it. Behind them she heard metal groaning. The ship was going down, slow but inevitable. They reached the deck. The storm had gotten worse. Wind whipped rain horizontal. Waves crashed against the hull, sending spray 20 feet in the air. The boat was there, A rigid-hulled inflatable, military grade. It rose and fell with the swells slamming against the ship's side. "How the hell are we supposed to—" Brennan started. "We're going to time it," Emma cut him off. "When the boat rises, we move. Fast." They waited. The boat dropped into a trough, rose up, dropped, rose. "Now!" They rushed forward. Torres went first, passed across the gap to waiting hands. The boat dropped, and for a horrible second Emma thought they were going to lose him, but the crew held on. Kowalski next. They lifted the backboard. Emma moved with it, keeping one hand on his head to maintain alignment. The boat rose to meet them. "Go!" They swung Kowalski across. Emma jumped with him, landing hard on the boat's deck. Pain shot through her ankle, but she ignored it, held Kowalski steady as the boat dropped away from the ship. The others followed, one by one. The last soldier jumped across just as the ship's deck disappeared under a wave. "Go, go!" someone shouted. The boat's engines roared. They pulled away from the sinking vessel, waves hammering them from all sides. Emma braced herself over Kowalski, shielding him from the spray. Torres was to her left, Brennan hunched over him. The other casualties were strapped in wherever they could find space. The ride was brutal. Every wave felt like hitting a wall. Water poured over the sides. Emma held on to Kowalski's backboard with both hands, her body taking the impact so his spine wouldn't. "How far?" she shouted over the wind. 2 miles! 2 miles. In these seas, it might as well be 20. They crested a massive wave. Dropped. Emma's stomach lurched. She heard someone vomiting, one of the concussion cases. Not good, but not the worst problem right now. A wave hit them broadside. The boat heeled over. Emma was sure they were going to capsize. Then the pilot brought them around, engines screaming, and they leveled out. "Torres is crashing!" Brennan screamed. Emma twisted to look. Torres had gone gray. His eyes were rolling back. "He's bleeding out. The packing came loose." No, not after everything. Emma tried to move toward him, but another wave hit, and she couldn't let go of Kowalski. "Brennan, you have to do it. Repack the wound." "I can't. I don't have—" "Use your hands if you have to. Find the bleeder and compress it." The young medic looked terrified, but he moved. Ripped open Torres's pressure dressing. Blood welled up, dark and fast. Brennan shoved his hands into the wound. Torres screamed, "I can't find it." "Go deeper. It's probably the inferior epigastric." Brennan went deeper. His hands disappeared into Torres's abdomen up to the wrists. Emma watched, helpless, still pinning Kowalski down as the boat bucked and twisted. "I feel something." "That's it. Compress it. Don't let go." The boat rose up another wave. Brennan fell forward but kept his hands buried in Torres. The kid was crying now, tears mixing with rain and spray. "I've got it. I've got it." "Hold it. Don't let go until we reach the frigate." 1 mile. Emma could see the larger ship now, lights cutting through the storm. It looked impossibly far away. Kowalski was saying something. Emma leaned down to hear. "Am I dying?" "Not today." "Feels like today. Trust me, I've seen dying. This isn't it." The boat slammed into another wave. Something snapped. One of the straps holding a casualty. The man with the broken arm slid across the deck. 2 soldiers grabbed him before he went overboard. 30 seconds, the pilot shouted. The frigate loomed up. Massive, stable, beautiful. A crane was already swinging out, lowering a litter. They came alongside. The swell here was smaller, protected by the frigate's bulk. Hands reached down. They lifted Torres first, Brennan still with his hands inside the wound. They went up together, swaying. Kowalski next. Emma climbed with him, holding the backboard stable. Up the side of the frigate, 20 feet, 30. Her arms burned. Rain poured down. She didn't let go. They reached the deck. Real medical personnel took over. Someone wrapped a blanket around Emma's shoulders. She stood there, watching them wheel Torres away toward the frigate's actual medical bay. Brennan emerged from the hatchway, his hands still covered in blood. He looked at Emma, opened his mouth, closed it. Then he dropped to his knees and sobbed. Emma walked over, sat down next to him on the wet deck. Didn't say anything. Just sat there while the kid cried and the storm raged and 6 men who should have been dead were now going to live. After a while, Brennan spoke. "They said you were the best. I didn't believe it. I thought it was just stories. It's not about being the best, it's about not giving up." I almost gave up. But you didn't. The big soldier from earlier appeared. Ma'am, the captain wants to thank you personally. Emma shook her head. I need to check on my patients first. They're being taken care of. Real doctors, real equipment. You did your part. My part isn't finished until they're stable. The soldier smiled slightly. With respect, ma'am, I don't think your part is ever finished. Emma followed him below deck. The frigate's medical bay was a different world from the damaged vessel. Clean, organized, properly lit. 3 doctors were working on Torres, 2 more on Kowalski. The other casualties were being treated by corpsmen. One of the doctors looked up as Emma entered. You're the one who stabilized them? Yeah. The spinal immobilization is textbook, and whoever packed Torres bought him another hour. That was you? My medic did the final pack. The doctor studied her. You're a civilian contractor? Something like that. Well, you do good work. He turned back to Torres. We're taking him to surgery now. Internal bleeding, probably a nicked artery. But he'll make it, thanks to you. Emma nodded, felt suddenly exhausted. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving nothing but pain and fatigue. Her ankle throbbed where she'd landed on the boat. Her hands ached. Her shoulders felt like someone had been hitting them with a hammer. She found a corner and sat down, closed her eyes for just a second. When she opened them, it was 2 hours later. The frigate was moving, engines thrumming beneath her. Someone had draped another blanket over her. The medical bay was quieter now. Most of the casualties had been treated and moved to beds. Emma stood, joints cracking. Found Brennan sitting near Kowalski's bed. How is he? Doctor says the swelling is going down. They gave him steroids. They think he might get some sensation back. That's good. He's terrified. Keeps asking if his career is over. Emma looked at Kowalski. The kid was asleep, sedated probably. His career might be over, but his life isn't. That's what matters. Brennan nodded, didn't look convinced. The big soldier appeared again. Ma'am, we're approaching Riverside City. The helicopters are going to take the critical patients directly to Riverside General. The others will go to... He paused. You okay? Fine. You don't look fine. I'm always fine. Right. He didn't believe her either. Anyway, we'll be landing in 20 minutes. The lieutenant commander wants to see you before we disembark. Emma followed him through the frigate's corridors. They passed sailors who stopped and stared. Word had spread, apparently. The civilian who saved 6 operators. She hated the attention. The lieutenant commander's office was small and neat. The man himself was older, graying, with the kind of weathered face that came from decades at sea. He stood when Emma entered. Lieutenant Caldwell, I've heard a lot about you. Most of it's exaggerated. I doubt that. He gestured to a chair. Emma sat. Your actions tonight saved 6 lives. That kind of work doesn't go unnoticed. I was just doing my job. No, you were doing far more than your job. You left that life, from what I understand. Retired, started over. He leaned forward. So why did you come back? Emma thought about it. About standing in the rain outside Riverside General. About being fired. About the phone call. About 6 dying men. Because nobody else could. The lieutenant commander smiled. That's the answer I was hoping for. He pulled out a folder. I'm authorized to offer you a position. Contract medical specialist with Naval Special Warfare. Good pay, better benefits, and the knowledge that you'd be saving lives that no one else can save. I'm not interested. You haven't heard the terms. I don't need to. I left the military for a reason, several reasons. Those reasons haven't changed. The lieutenant commander studied her. What if I told you those 6 men you saved tonight? They're part of an ongoing operation, high priority, national security level, and they're going back out there in 6 weeks. Without you, their survival rate drops by half. Emma felt something twist in her chest. That's not fair. No, it's not, but it's true. She stood. I need to think about it. Of course. Take your time, but not too much time. He handed her a card. My direct line. Call any time. Emma took the card, walked out. The frigate was pulling into port. Through a window, she could see the lights of Riverside City. Her city. The place she'd tried to build a normal life. She thought about Riverside General, about Dr. Hale, about being fired for saving a life. Then she thought about Torres and Kowalski and the four others, about Brennan learning to save lives in the middle of a storm, about doing the one thing she was genuinely, undeniably good at. The helicopters were waiting on deck. Torres was being loaded into one, still unconscious. Kowalski into another. Emma watched them go. "Ma'am?" Brennan approached. "Are you coming back with us?" "Where are you going?" "Mercy General. They're taking the critical cases there. I'm riding with Torres." Emma hesitated. Mercy General. Not Riverside General. Different hospital. Different staff, different doctors who didn't know her, who hadn't seen her fired. "Yeah," she said finally. "I'm coming." They flew low over the city. The storm had passed, leaving just rain. Emma watched the streets slide by below. Somewhere down there was her apartment, her roommate, her civilian life. Felt very far away. The helicopter landed on Mercy General's helipad. Medical teams rushed out. They took Torres first, wheeling him inside at a run. Then Kowalski. Emma followed, still wearing her rain-soaked jacket, boots squelching with every step. Inside, the hospital was bright and warm. A doctor intercepted her. "Are you the medic?" "Nurse, technically." "Well, nurse, technically, you just saved 6 lives." "I'm Dr. Sarah Vance, head of trauma. I want you to brief my team on everything you did so we can continue treatment properly." Emma spent the next 30 minutes in a conference room explaining procedures to people who actually listened, who asked questions, who treated her like she knew what she was talking about. It was disorienting. When she finished, Dr. Vance nodded. "Excellent work, all of it. I'd hire you in a heartbeat if you're looking for a position." "I'm not." "Shame." Vance handed her a bottle of water. "You should rest. You look dead on your feet." Emma drank half the bottle in one go, realized she couldn't remember the last time she'd eaten. "I want to check on Torres and Kowalski first. Torres is in surgery, Kowalski's in recovery, both stable." Vance smiled. "They're going to make it because of you. That's got to feel good." It did. Emma hated that it did, because feeling good about this meant acknowledging that maybe she belonged here, in the chaos and blood and impossible situations, more than she belonged in a quiet civilian life. She was trying to figure out what to say when someone shouted from down the hall. "Ghost? Is that? Holy shit, it is you." Emma turned. A man was running toward her. 30s, athletic build, scar across his left cheek. It took her a second to place him. "Marcus?" "Yeah." Marcus Webb, the warrant officer who'd called her earlier. He grabbed her in a hug that lifted her off her feet. "I can't believe you actually came. When you hung up, I thought, put me down." He put her down, grinning like an idiot. "You saved them, all 6. Torres is going to be fine. Kowalski's got a chance. The others are already asking when they can get back to training. They can't, not for months, and I know, but the fact that they can ask at all is—" He shook his head. "It's because of you." "Stop. No, you don't get to do something like this and then pretend it didn't matter. You saved my team, my brothers. I owe you. You don't owe me anything." Emma's voice came out harder than intended. "This was a one-time thing. I'm not back. I'm not rejoining. I couldn't let them die." Marcus's grin faded. "But you're thinking about it. Coming back." "No." "Liar." He said it gently. "I saw you in there. I saw your face. This is who you are, Ghost. You can pretend to be a regular nurse in a regular hospital, but we both know that's not—" A commotion erupted near the emergency entrance. Raised voices, someone shouting. Emma turned to see what was happening and felt her blood go cold. Dr. Victor Hale was standing in the lobby, and he'd just seen her. For a moment, they just stared at each other across the crowded space. The doctor who'd fired her. The nurse who'd defied him. 8 hours ago, he'd thrown her out of Riverside General. Now here she was, surrounded by military personnel, looking like she'd just walked off a battlefield, which, technically, she had. Hale walked toward her. His face was unreadable. "Caldwell." "Dr. Hale." "What are you doing here?" Emma almost laughed. "Working." "You were fired. From Riverside General. This is Mercy General." His jaw tightened. "I heard something on the radio about casualties from a naval operation. They said a civilian medic—" "That was you?" Emma didn't answer. Hale looked around. at Marcus in his combat gear, at the other soldiers who'd appeared, at Dr. Vance watching with interest. "Who are you really?" "Nobody," Emma said. "Just a nurse who knew how to do a crick. Isn't that what you said?" "I said you overstepped, and I said a patient was dying. Turns out we were both right." Emma started to walk away. "Wait." Hale's voice stopped her. "I need to know. The procedure you did tonight, the stabilization, the spinal immobilization, that's not standard civilian training." "No, it's not." "So where did you—" Emma turned to face him fully. Let him see the exhaustion, the blood still on her jacket, the way she was standing, weight balanced, ready to move, nothing like the timid nurse he'd fired. "You want to know where I learned it? I learned it in places where mistakes meant body bags, where there was no backup, no equipment, and no second chances. I learned it from people who trusted me with their lives when they had no other choice." She took a step closer. "And then I came here, to your hospital, and I tried to use that training to save someone's life, and you fired me for it." Hale opened his mouth, closed it. "So here's what's going to happen," Emma continued. "You're going to walk away. You're going to forget you saw me, and you're going to think really hard about why you became a doctor in the first place, because I'm done pretending you were right." She walked away. Marcus followed, along with 2 other soldiers. Behind them, Dr. Hale stood frozen in the middle of the lobby, looking like someone had just punched him in the face. Emma pushed through the doors and out into the night. The rain had stopped completely now. The air smelled clean. "That was beautiful," Marcus said. "Did you practice that?" "Shut up." "No, seriously, the 'I'm done pretending you were right' line. Perfect. I'm stealing it." Emma couldn't help it. She smiled, just a little. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number, again. She almost didn't answer. But something made her. "Lieutenant Caldwell?" A woman's voice this time. Professional, clipped. "This is Colonel Patricia Morrison, Naval Special Warfare Command. I'm calling to inform you that your actions tonight have been noted at the highest levels. We'd like to discuss your future with—" "I don't have a future with the Navy." "Lieutenant, with respect, after tonight, that's not your decision to make anymore." The colonel's voice changed slightly. Harder. "You saved 6 operators, 6 men whose work is classified at a level I can't discuss over an unsecured line. That makes you a national security interest. We need to talk. In person. Tomorrow. 0900 hours. And if I say no, then we'll have to have a different kind of conversation. The kind with lawyers." A pause. "Please don't make this difficult, Lieutenant. You did good work tonight. Let's keep it that way." The call ended. Emma stood there, phone in hand, while Marcus watched with concern. "What did they say?" "They want me back." "And?" Emma looked up at the sky. Clear now, stars visible between the city lights. Somewhere out there, a damaged vessel was sinking. 6 men were alive who shouldn't be, and a fired nurse was being hunted by the same military she'd tried to leave behind. And I don't know if I ever really left. Her phone buzzed again. A text this time. From a number she didn't recognize, but when she opened it, ice flooded her veins. The message contained a single photo. Riverside General's parking lot, taken tonight, showing her standing in the rain moments before the helicopters arrived. And beneath the photo, 3 words, "We're watching you." Emma stared at the photo. Her face was partially visible in the frame, caught in the moment before she'd looked up at the helicopters. The angle was wrong for a security camera. Someone had been there, watching, close enough to capture the expression on her face, but far enough away that she hadn't noticed. Marcus leaned over her shoulder. "What is that?" Emma deleted the message, pocketed her phone. "Nothing." "That didn't look like nothing." "Drop it." But her mind was already working through the possibilities. Who knew she'd been at Riverside General? Who knew about the extraction? The operation had been classified. The only people who should have known were military personnel and the hospital staff who'd seen the helicopters land. Neither group had reason to send cryptic threats, which meant someone else was involved. Emma turned to Marcus. "The operation tonight, what went wrong?" "I can't discuss—" 6 operators got hurt in what should have been a routine breach. That's not random bad luck. Someone screwed up or someone knew you were coming. Marcus's expression shifted. "How did you—" Because I've seen enough ops go sideways to know the difference between Murphy's Law and sabotage. So which was it? He glanced around. They were standing outside Mercy General's main entrance, surrounded by people coming and going. Not the place for this conversation. Let's walk. They moved away from the building toward the parking garage. Marcus waited until they were alone between rows of cars before speaking. The target was supposed to be empty. Intel said the occupants had left 2 hours prior. We breached, cleared the first room, moved to the second. That's when the charges went off. Someone had rigged the place, knowing we'd come through that exact entry point. An ambush. Yeah. Which means either our intel was compromised or someone on our side talked. Emma thought about the text message, the photo. When was the operation planned? 48 hours ago. Fast turnaround. Who knew about it? Command, the team, support staff, maybe 30 people total. Marcus stopped walking. You think this is related to that message? I think someone doesn't want me involved, and they knew exactly where to find me tonight. Could be a coincidence. You believe in coincidences? Marcus didn't answer. They reached Emma's building, a rundown apartment complex on the east side of the city. She climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor, Marcus following despite not being invited. Her roommate's door was closed, lights off. Good. Emma didn't have the energy to explain where she'd been. Inside her own apartment, Emma stripped off the blood-stained jacket and dropped it on the floor. Her hands were shaking now that the adrenaline had fully worn off. She filled a glass with water from the tap, drank half, then just stood there staring at nothing. You should eat something, Marcus said. I should sleep. You won't. Not after tonight. He was right. Emma's mind was spinning too fast. The image of Torres bleeding out, Kowalski's terrified eyes, the way Brennan had cried, the text message. Marcus opened her refrigerator. You have beer and expired milk, that's it. I don't cook. Clearly. He pulled out 2 beers, handed her one. When's the last time you slept? Before my shift at Riverside, so 18 hours ago? You need rest. I need answers. Emma drank the beer. It was cheap and tasted like it. That message wasn't random. Someone's tracking me, which means they know about my past, about what I did before Riverside General. Your service record is sealed. Sealed records can be unsealed by people with enough clearance or enough money. Marcus sat down on her couch. The springs creaked. You think someone's using you, setting you up? I think someone wanted those operators hurt, and now I'm the person who saved them. That makes me either an asset or a liability depending on whose side I'm on. You're not on a side, you just saved lives. Doesn't matter. Perception is everything. Emma paced the small living room. The colonel who called me. Morrison. She said I'm a national security interest now. That's not praise, that's a leash. She also said you did good work, right before threatening me with lawyers if I didn't comply. That's not how you treat someone you respect. That's how you treat someone you need to control. Marcus was quiet for a moment. So what are you going to do? Emma looked at him. At this man she barely knew anymore, who dragged her back into a world she'd tried to escape. I'm going to that meeting tomorrow, and I'm going to find out who's playing games with my life. Want backup? No, this is my problem. Ghost? Don't call me that. The words came out sharper than intended. That person doesn't exist anymore. Could have fooled me. Marcus stood. You want my advice? Stop running from who you are. You're good at this, better than anyone I've ever seen, and people need that. Those 6 men tonight? They're alive because you stopped pretending. He left. The door clicked shut. Emma stood alone in her apartment, beer in hand, feeling the weight of his words settle over her. She didn't sleep, just sat on the couch watching the sky lighten through the window. At 6 in the morning, she showered, put on clean clothes, civilian clothes, jeans, and a plain shirt. The meeting was at 9. She had 3 hours to prepare. Her phone rang at 7:30. Unknown number. Emma almost ignored it, but the area code was local. Caldwell, this is Janet Kim from Channel 6 News. I'm calling about an incident last night involving military personnel and a civilian medical worker. We have reports that... Emma hung up. 30 seconds later, another call. Different number. Another reporter. She ignored it. Then a text from a third number asking for an interview. Someone had leaked the story. By 8 o'clock, her phone was buzzing constantly. Emma turned it off, grabbed her jacket, left the apartment and took the stairs down to avoid the elevator where someone might corner her. A news van was parked across the street. Emma froze. A reporter stood near the van, camera crew setting up. They hadn't seen her yet. She turned and walked the other direction, cutting through an alley that led to the next block over. Her phone buzzed, even though it was supposed to be off. She pulled it out. A single text from a number she recognized now, the same one that had sent the photo. "Run all you want. We'll find you." Emma deleted it, kept walking, reached the bus stop 3 blocks away and waited. The morning was cold, clouds threatening more rain. She watched every car that passed, every person who walked by, looking for the watcher, the photographer, whoever was pulling strings. The bus came. Emma rode it downtown to the federal building where Colonel Morrison had told her to meet. Security was tight, metal detectors, ID checks, armed guards. Emma gave her name at the desk. A guard made a call, then directed her to the 4th floor. The elevator was empty. Emma watched the numbers climb, tried to ignore the feeling that she was walking into a trap. 4th floor. The doors opened onto a hallway lined with office doors. A woman in uniform waited there. 40-something, dark hair pulled back, colonel's insignia on her collar. Patricia Morrison. "Lieutenant Caldwell, thank you for coming. Did I have a choice?" "Not really." Morrison gestured down the hall. "This way." They walked past several closed doors before Morrison opened one and led Emma inside. The room was small and windowless. A conference table, 3 chairs, recording equipment visible in the corner. "Have a seat." Emma sat. Morrison sat across from her, pulled out a tablet and set it on the table. "Let's start with what happened last night. From the beginning. I already briefed the medical team at Riverside General. This isn't a medical debrief, this is a security review." Morrison tapped the tablet. A recording started playing, audio only. Emma recognized her own voice, talking to Brennan on the damaged vessel. Then the sound of her working, commands being given, Torres screaming. "Where did you get that?" One of the operators was wearing a body camera, standard procedure. Morrison stopped the recording. "Your work was exemplary. Textbook trauma response. But what interests me is how you knew what to do. Your training, your background. It's in my file." "Your file is remarkably vague. Special Operations Medical Support Element. 4 years of service. Honorable discharge. Nothing about what you actually did. No mission reports, no commendations, nothing." "That's intentional." "I know. What I want to know is why." Morrison leaned forward. "Most medics want their achievements recognized. You went out of your way to bury yours. Why?" Emma said nothing. "I've been doing this job for 20 years, Morrison continued. I've seen plenty of soldiers who leave the service and want to forget. PTSD, moral injury, burnout. I get it. But you didn't just leave, you erased yourself, changed your life completely, started over as a civilian nurse at a hospital that doesn't even know what you're capable of. That's not standard retirement behavior. That's running." "Is there a question in there?" "Yes. What are you running from?" Emma met her gaze. "With respect, Colonel, that's none of your business. It became my business when you inserted yourself into a classified operation." "I didn't insert myself. Your people came to me. Because you were the only option in range with the necessary skills. But that raises another question. How did you know the operation was happening? How did you know where to be?" Emma's blood went cold. "I didn't know. Your warrant officer called me. I was at Riverside General when you were fired from Riverside General at 11 p.m. The call came at 11:45. In that time, you walked 8 blocks in a storm to position yourself at Riverside General's helipad." Morrison pulled up something on her tablet. "That's a very specific location, one that just happened to be perfect for extraction." "That's where he told me to go." "Who told you?" "Marcus Webb, Chief Warrant Officer. He made the call." Morrison shook her head. "Webb didn't give you a location. He gave you coordinates that would have taken you to a different extraction point 3 miles away. But you went to Riverside General instead. Why?" Emma's mind raced. She remembered the text message with the coordinates, but Morrison was right. She'd gone to Mercy General without thinking. Why? Because it was closer? Because you're saying I was set up. I'm saying someone wanted you at that specific location at that specific time. And I want to know who and why. I don't know. I don't believe you. I don't care what you believe. Someone called me, said operators were dying, gave me a location. I went. That's it. Morrison studied her. You're either the most dedicated medic I've ever met, or you're playing a game I don't understand yet. I'm not playing anything. Then explain this. Morrison turned the tablet around. It showed a bank statement. Emma's bank statement. 3 days ago, you received a wire transfer, $10,000, from an offshore account. Care to explain? Emma stared at the screen. I've never seen that before. It's your account. I don't have $10,000. I barely have $10. Well, according to your bank, you do now. Morrison pulled the tablet back. Someone paid you before the operation. That's not a coincidence. I'm being framed. Or you're being compensated. Emma stood up. I'm done with this conversation. Sit down, Lieutenant. I'm not a lieutenant anymore, and I'm not answering any more questions without a lawyer. Morrison's expression hardened. You walk out of here. I'll have you arrested for obstruction. On what grounds? On the grounds that 6 military personnel were injured in a compromised operation, and you're the only common denominator who doesn't have an alibi. Morrison stood. You saved their lives. I acknowledge that. But someone set up that ambush. Someone knew when and where our team would be. And someone made sure you'd be available to save them afterward. That level of coordination doesn't happen by accident. Emma's hands were shaking again. You think I helped plan an attack on American soldiers? I think someone wants me to think that, and I need to know why. They stared at each other across the table. Emma's mind was spinning. The text messages, the photo, the money. Someone was building a case against her, setting her up to look like a traitor. I want to see my service record, Emma said quietly. It's classified. It's my record. I have a right to You gave up those rights when you signed the non-disclosure agreement. Morrison sat back down. But I'll make you a deal. You help me figure out who compromised last night's operation, and I'll tell you what's in your file. Deal? Emma considered. She didn't trust Morrison, didn't trust anyone in this room, but she needed information, needed to know what she was dealing with. How do I know you won't just arrest me anyway? You don't. But right now, you're the only lead I have. I'd rather use you than lock you up. That's not reassuring. It's not supposed to be. It's honest. Morrison pulled out a file folder. Real paper, not digital. Here's what I know. The operation last night was planned in a 48-hour window. The target was a warehouse suspected of housing stolen military equipment. Intel came from a source we've used before. Always reliable. But someone rigged the place with explosives designed to take out a breach team. Sophisticated work. Professional. Who had access to the intel? Command staff, the team, support personnel, and... Morrison paused. And the hospital. Emma's stomach dropped. What hospital? Riverside General. The team was pre-positioned there under the guise of a medical training exercise. In case of casualties, they'd be taken directly to the ER, standard protocol. Who at the hospital knew? Administration, the ER chief, a few key staff members. Morrison met Emma's eyes, including Dr. Victor Hale. Everything clicked. The timing. The way Hale had fired her so publicly. The convenience of her being available and desperate just hours before the operation went wrong. He set me up, Emma said slowly. Hale fired me to make sure I'd be available when the call came. That's one theory. It's not a theory. It's what happened. Emma started pacing. He made a scene, humiliated me, made sure everyone knew I'd been fired. Then someone, maybe him, maybe someone he's working with, arranged for that money to be deposited, made it look like I was paid. Then they triggered the operation knowing it would fail and knowing I'd respond when called. Why? To discredit me, or to have someone to blame when things went wrong. Emma stopped pacing. Who else got hurt? Morrison frowned. What? In the attack, 6 operators were injured, but a setup this elaborate wouldn't be just about 6 casualties. There had to be a bigger target. Who else was supposed to be there? Morrison's expression changed. How did you? Because 6 injured operators don't justify this level of planning. But if there was a high-value target who wasn't injured, who maybe wasn't even there… Emma leaned on the table. Who was the real target? Morrison was quiet for a long moment. Then she pulled out her phone, made a call. Get me the full roster for Operation Midnight Harbor, now. She hung up, looked at Emma. You're smarter than your file suggests. My file's incomplete. Clearly. A knock on the door. A junior officer entered, handed Morrison another tablet, then left. Morrison scrolled through it. Her face went pale. What? Emma asked. There was supposed to be a 7th person on that team, an intelligence officer. He pulled out at the last minute, said he had food poisoning. Convenient. Very. Morrison kept scrolling. His name is Captain Derek Sutherland, attached to Naval Intelligence. He's the one who provided the intel on the warehouse. The source. Yeah, and according to this, he's been working with Riverside General on a long-term project. Medical research, trauma response protocols. Emma felt ice in her veins. He knows Hale. They co-authored a paper together 2 years ago. Morrison looked up. About combat medicine and civilian applications. The pieces were falling into place. Hale and Sutherland working together. An operation sabotaged. Emma positioned as the scapegoat. But why? What did they gain? Where is Sutherland now? Emma asked. Morrison made another call. Listened. Her expression darkened. He's not answering. His last known location was… She stopped. Riverside General. 4 hours ago. They moved fast. Morrison made 3 more calls while they walked to the elevator. By the time they reached the parking garage, she'd assembled a team. 4 MPs in tactical gear. 2 vehicles. Morrison handed Emma a vest. Put that on. I'm not military anymore. You are until this is resolved. Put it on. Emma put on the vest. It was heavy and uncomfortable and felt like surrendering. But she did it anyway because walking into whatever was waiting unarmed seemed stupider. They drove in convoy. Morrison rode with Emma in the lead vehicle. The MP driving didn't speak. The one in the passenger seat kept his rifle ready. What's the play? Emma asked. We find Sutherland. We find out what he knows. And we figure out who's really running this operation. And if he runs? He won't get far. They reached Riverside General 15 minutes later. The parking lot was half empty. Morning shift was in full swing. Morrison's team deployed fast, 2 MPs to the main entrance, 2 to the back. Morrison and Emma went through the front doors. The lobby was busy, patients waiting, staff moving between departments. Emma spotted a familiar face near the registration desk. Kelly, the young nurse who'd tried to sympathize with her last night. Their eyes met. Kelly's face went white. Emma walked over. Where's Dr. Hale? He's in his office. But Emma, you can't be here. He said if you came back. Where's his office? 2nd floor, but… Emma was already moving. Morrison followed. Up the stairs, down a corridor. Hale's office was at the end. The door was closed. Emma didn't knock, just opened it. Hale was behind his desk, not alone. Captain Derek Sutherland sat across from him. Both men looked up as Emma entered. Caldwell? Hale stood. What the hell are you doing here? Morrison stepped in behind Emma. Captain Sutherland, you're under investigation for compromising a military operation. You're going to need to come with us. Sutherland smiled, actually smiled. I don't think so. He moved fast, pulled something from his jacket. Emma saw the gun and reacted on instinct. She grabbed Morrison and pulled her down as the shot went off. The bullet punched through the drywall where Morrison's head had been. The MPs burst in. On the ground, now! Sutherland bolted, crashed through the window behind Hale's desk. Glass exploded outward. Emma ran to the window in time to see him hit the roof of the single-story annex below. He rolled, came up running. He's on the annex roof, Morrison shouted into her radio. Seal the perimeter. But Emma was already moving. Out of the office, down the hall, she found a stairwell that led to maintenance access. Kicked open the door, climbed through onto the annex roof. Sutherland was 20 feet away. He spun when he heard her. Raised the gun. Don't. Emma kept walking. You can't shoot me. You need me alive. I needed you framed. That plan's shot now. So what's the backup? Kill me and hope Morrison doesn't figure it out? Sutherland's hand was shaking. You weren't supposed to be this smart. You were supposed to be some traumatized burnout who'd take the fall and disappear. Disappointing, isn't it? Extremely. He steadied the gun. But I can adapt. A shot rang out, but it didn't come from Sutherland's gun. He jerked, looked down at his chest where blood was blooming, looked back up at Emma with confusion. Then he fell. Emma spun. On the roof access behind her stood Marcus Webb, rifle still raised, smoke curling from the barrel. You followed me, Emma said. Yeah. Why? Because you're terrible at watching your own back. Marcus lowered the rifle, walked past her to Sutherland's body, checked for a pulse. He's dead. Morrison appeared at the roof access, saw Sutherland, saw Marcus. Her expression was unreadable. That was a clean shoot, she said finally. He fired on federal officers. You responded appropriately. Yes, ma'am. Morrison walked to the edge of the roof, looked down at the parking lot where MPs were securing the area. We need to find out what he was planning, who he was working with. This doesn't end with one intelligence officer and one hospital administrator. Hale, Emma said. Where is he? They went back inside. Hale's office was empty, the window still broken, glass everywhere, but Hale was gone. He ran, Morrison said. Probably the second Sutherland pulled that gun. Smart. We need to find him. We will. But right now we need to secure this scene. Morrison looked at Emma. You saved my life. Thank you. Emma nodded. Didn't trust herself to speak. The adrenaline was fading again. She was tired, so tired. Marcus touched her shoulder. You okay? No? Fair. They spent the next 3 hours giving statements. MPs swarmed Riverside General. Patients were evacuated. Staff were questioned. Someone found Hale's car still in the parking garage, which meant he'd left on foot or had another vehicle stashed somewhere. Emma sat in an ambulance bay, wrapped in a blanket someone had given her. She watched the organized chaos and felt nothing, just empty. Morrison appeared. We found something in Hale's office. You should see this. Emma followed her back upstairs. The office was now a crime scene, cordoned off with tape. Morrison led her inside anyway, pointed to the computer on Hale's desk. He left it unlocked, probably panicked and forgot. We pulled his files. The screen showed a spreadsheet, names, dates, amounts. Emma recognized several names, military personnel, some from last night's operation, others she didn't know. What is this? A ledger. Hale and Sutherland were running an operation, selling classified information to foreign buyers. Medical intelligence, trauma procedures, anything that could be weaponized. Morrison scrolled down. They'd been doing it for 2 years, made millions. And last night? Last night was supposed to be their exit strategy. Set up an attack that looked like a random ambush, frame you as the inside source, disappear with the money while everyone was looking at you. Emma stared at the screen, all those names, all those people betrayed. Did anyone else die? Other operations? We're checking now, but probably yes. Emma felt sick, and I almost took the fall for it. But you didn't, because you're smarter than they thought, and luckier. Morrison closed the laptop. This is going to get messy. Congressional hearings, investigations, you'll be called to testify. I just want to go home. I know, but that's not happening yet. Morrison handed her a card, different from the one before. That's my direct line. Not as a colonel. As someone who owes you. You need anything, protection, resources, help finding Hale, you call me. Understand? Emma took the card. Why are you helping me?
Boss,
Because Sutherland was right about one thing. You weren't supposed to be this smart. You were supposed to be easy to frame, but instead you saved 6 lives, exposed a traitor, and survived 2 attempts to destroy you in 24 hours. Morrison smiled slightly. That's someone I want on my side. Emma left Riverside General 2 hours later. The press was outside now. Cameras. Reporters shouting questions. Morrison's MPs cleared a path. Emma kept her head down and didn't answer. Marcus drove her home. They didn't talk, just drove through the city while the sun set and the streetlights came on. At her apartment, Emma got out, started to walk away, then turned back. Why did you follow me? Marcus looked at her through the open window. Because 3 years ago you saved my life. Pulled me out of a burning vehicle under fire. Kept me breathing until medevac arrived. I never got to say thank you. You didn't need to. Yeah, I did. He put the car in gear. Get some rest, Ghost. You earned it. He drove away. Emma climbed the stairs to her apartment, unlocked the door, stepped inside. Her roommate was in the kitchen. Oh, thank God, I've been calling you all day. Are you okay? I saw the news and I'm fine. You're not fine. You look like you've been through hell. Emma dropped her jacket on the floor, walked to her bedroom. I'm going to sleep. Don't wake me up unless the building's on fire. She closed the door, fell onto her bed fully clothed, stared at the ceiling. Her phone buzzed. She almost ignored it, but something made her look. A text from an unknown number, but not the same one as before. This one just said, "We need to talk. Tomorrow. 1800 hours. The address below. Come alone." Below that was an address in the industrial district. And below that, a single name that made Emma's blood freeze. Lieutenant Sarah Reeves. Sarah Reeves. Dead 3 years. Killed in the same operation that had made Emma walk away from everything. The operation that had gotten her the nickname Ghost. The operation she'd spent 3 years trying to forget. The operation where Emma had been the only survivor. Emma didn't sleep. She lay on her bed staring at the text message until the screen went dark, then turned it back on and read it again. Sarah Reeves. The name was a ghost itself, a memory she'd buried so deep she'd almost convinced herself it never existed. Almost. At 3 a.m, Emma got up, made coffee, sat at her kitchen table and forced herself to remember. Operation Red Harbor. 4 years ago. A medical evacuation mission that had gone catastrophically wrong. 12 personnel on a helicopter. Emma had been the medic. Sarah Reeves had been the pilot. They'd been extracting wounded from a hot zone when the aircraft took fire. Engine failure. Controlled crash that turned uncontrolled in the last 10 seconds. Emma had woken up in the wreckage. Broken ribs, concussion, blood in her mouth. And around her, 11 bodies. Some had died in the crash. Others had died in the fire that followed. Sarah Reeves had been pinned in the cockpit, still alive when Emma reached her, still conscious. She'd looked at Emma and said 3 words. Not your fault. Then she'd died. The investigation had cleared Emma of wrongdoing, mechanical failure, bad luck. But Emma had requested discharge 6 months later. Couldn't fly anymore. Couldn't watch helicopters without seeing fire. Couldn't save 11 people who trusted her to get them home. So she'd become a civilian nurse. Quiet. Forgettable. Someone who saved one life at a time in controlled environments where nothing caught fire and nobody died screaming. Except Sarah Reeves was dead. Emma had watched her die. Had carried that weight for 3 years, so who the hell was sending messages with her name? Emma checked the address. Industrial district on the south side. Warehouses and container yards. Exactly the kind of place you'd go if you wanted to have a conversation nobody else would hear. Or if you wanted to kill someone. She looked at Colonel Morrison's card, thought about calling, but the message had said, "Come alone." If this was a trap, bringing backup would spring it early. If it wasn't, if somehow Sarah really was alive, then Emma needed to hear what she had to say without military handlers recording every word. At 7 a.m, Emma's phone rang. Morrison, I need you to come in for a follow-up debrief. When? Now would be good. I have something I need to do first. Caldwell, we still haven't found Hale. Until we do, you're a target. I'd feel better if you were somewhere secure. Emma looked at the text message still glowing on her screen. I'll be there by noon. That's 4 hours from now. I'm aware. Morrison was quiet for a moment. What are you planning? Nothing. You're a terrible liar. I'll be there by noon, Emma repeated and hung up. She spent the next hour preparing. Changed into clothes she could move in. Found the lockbox under her bed that she hadn't opened in 3 years. Inside was her old service knife, a flashlight, basic first aid supplies, and a pistol she'd kept despite promising herself she'd never need it again. Emma checked the weapon. Still functional, loaded. She put it in her jacket pocket and felt the weight drag at her like an anchor. At 1700 hours, Emma took the bus to the industrial district. Got off 6 blocks from the address, walked the rest of the way while the sun dropped toward the horizon and long shadows stretched across empty streets. The address led to a warehouse near the waterfront. Old brick building, windows boarded up. A faded sign said it had once been a fish processing plant. Now it looked abandoned. Emma circled the block twice, looking for surveillance, for signs of an ambush. Nothing obvious, just an empty building in an empty part of town. At exactly 1800 hours, Emma walked to the front entrance. The door was unlocked. Inside was darkness and the smell of rust and seawater. She pulled out her flashlight, swept it across the space. The main floor was empty, concrete, old equipment pushed against the walls, stairs leading up to what looked like offices on the second floor. "Hello?" Emma's voice echoed. No answer. She moved deeper into the warehouse, hand on the pistol in her pocket, every instinct screaming at her to leave. But she kept walking because she needed to know, needed to understand how a dead woman was sending messages. A light flickered on above. Second floor. Emma climbed the stairs. Each step creaked under her weight. At the top was a corridor, one door open at the end, light spilling out. Emma approached, looked inside. The room was small, an old office, desk, chairs, and sitting in one of those chairs was a woman Emma didn't recognize. 40-something, short dark hair, dressed in casual clothes. She looked up as Emma entered. "Emma Caldwell, sit down." "Who are you?" "Someone who knows what really happened 3 years ago." The woman gestured to a chair. "Please, sit." Emma stayed standing. "Sarah Reeves is dead." "Yes, she is." "So why use her name?" "Because I needed to get your attention, and I knew that name would do it." The woman pulled out a tablet. "My name is Jennifer Cross. I work for the Defense Intelligence Agency. Or I did until last week when I started asking the wrong questions." Emma's hand tightened on the pistol. "What questions?" "About Operation Red Harbor. About why a routine extraction turned into a massacre. About who gave the order that sent your helicopter into an active combat zone without proper support." Jennifer turned the tablet around. It showed a classified document. Emma recognized the seal. "The official report says mechanical failure, bad luck, but that's not what happened." Emma's throat was dry. "What are you talking about?" "Your helicopter was sabotaged. The mechanical failure wasn't random. Someone wanted that aircraft to go down, and they wanted everyone on it dead." The room tilted. Emma grabbed the edge of the desk. "That's not possible." "It's not only possible, it's documented. Right here." Jennifer tapped the tablet. "The investigation was buried, the inspectors were transferred, the evidence disappeared, but I found the maintenance logs. Someone tampered with the hydraulic system 2 hours before your flight." "Who?" "Captain Derek Sutherland." Emma stopped breathing. "What?" "He was stationed at the same base, had access to the aircraft, had the technical knowledge. And according to financial records I pulled, he received a payment of $50,000 3 days after your crash." "From who?" "That's what I've been trying to find out. The money came through shell companies, offshore accounts. But I traced it back far enough to find a pattern, and that pattern leads to someone you know." Jennifer pulled up another document, a photograph. Emma stared at it. Her knees went weak. Dr. Victor Hale, standing next to a man in uniform. The photo was dated 4 years ago, before Operation Red Harbor, before Emma's discharge, before everything. "They knew each other," Emma said. "They were business partners. Hale was running unauthorized medical research, trauma protocols, experimental procedures. He needed test subjects. Sutherland provided them." "Test subjects? You mean the wounded personnel on your helicopter? They weren't being evacuated for normal treatment. They were being taken to Hale's facility for experimentation." Jennifer's voice was flat, professional, but Emma could hear the anger underneath. The crash was supposed to kill everyone. No survivors, no witnesses, no evidence. Emma's legs gave out. She sat down hard. "I survived. You survived. And that should have been a problem for them. But you were so traumatized, so broken, that you discharged yourself. Became a civilian, disappeared. They figured you were neutralized without having to kill you. Until last night. Until last night, when you showed up and saved 6 men in a compromised operation. When you demonstrated exactly how skilled you really are. When you became a liability again." Emma put her head in her hands. "They tried to frame me, the money, the messages. They wanted Morrison to think I was a traitor. And when that didn't work, Sutherland tried to kill you. But Marcus Webb got to him first." "How do you know all this?" Because I've been investigating Hale and Sutherland for 6 months, ever since I found discrepancies in medical supply requisitions, equipment going missing, drugs being diverted. I started digging and found this whole operation. Jennifer leaned forward. They've been doing this for years, using military personnel as test subjects, selling the research to foreign governments, making millions, and killing anyone who found out. Sarah Reeves found out. She saw something during a previous flight, reported it to her superior. 2 weeks later, your helicopter went down. Emma looked up. Sarah knew? She knew something was wrong, not all of it, but enough to be dangerous. Jennifer's expression softened slightly. I'm sorry. I know you two were close. We weren't. We just flew together. But that was a lie. Sarah had been a friend, one of the few people who'd understood what it meant to live in that world, and she'd died trying to do the right thing. Emma stood. Where's Hale now? I don't know. He ran yesterday, but I know where he's going to be tomorrow. Where? The port. He's got passage booked on a cargo ship leaving at 0600, heading to Malaysia. No extradition treaty. He'll disappear. How do you know this? Because I've been monitoring his accounts. He used a credit card this morning to pay for the passage. Stupid move, probably panicking. Emma pulled out her phone. I'm calling Colonel Morrison. Don't. Why not? Because Morrison's bosses will want this handled quietly. They'll arrest Hale. He'll make a deal, provide testimony in exchange for a reduced sentence. And all those deaths, all those experiments will stay buried under national security classifications. Jennifer stood. That's not justice. That's a cover-up. So what are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we make sure the world knows what happened. We bring the evidence public, force a real investigation, make them face consequences. Emma stared at her. You want to leak classified information. I want to expose war crimes. That's treason. That's whistleblowing. There's a difference. Emma thought about Sarah, about the 11 others who died, about how many more might have died in Hale's experiments, about 3 years of nightmares and wondering if she could have done something different. What do you need from me? Jennifer smiled. Testimony, evidence, and help making sure Hale doesn't get on that ship. They spent the next 2 hours planning. Jennifer had files, documents, financial records, enough to build a case that would destroy Hale and everyone connected to him. But she needed Emma's first-hand account, her status as a survivor, her medical expertise to explain exactly what the experiments had done. At 2200 hours, Emma's phone rang. Morrison again. You missed the debrief. Something came up. Caldwell, I need to know where you are. I'm safe. That's not what I asked. Emma looked at Jennifer. I'll call you back tomorrow. Don't do anything stupid. Too late. Emma hung up. Jennifer was packing the files into a backpack. Morrison's going to come looking for you. I know. Are you prepared for that? Emma thought about the past 48 hours, about being fired, about saving 6 lives, about learning she'd survived an assassination attempt 3 years ago. I don't know what I'm prepared for anymore, but I know what I'm not willing to accept, which is them getting away with it. Jennifer nodded. Good, because tomorrow morning we're going to make sure they don't. They left the warehouse separately. Emma took a different route back, constantly checking for tails. Arrived at her apartment near midnight. Her roommate was asleep. Emma packed a bag. Essentials, clothes, the pistol. The files Jennifer had copied for her. At 0300, Emma's phone buzzed. Jennifer, he's on the move, early. We need to go now. Emma grabbed her bag, left without waking her roommate. Met Jennifer 2 blocks away in an old sedan. He's heading to the port already, Jennifer said as Emma got in. Must have spooked, changed his plans. They drove fast through empty streets. The port was on the east side. Container yards, cargo ships. Security was usually tight, but at this hour most of the activity was automated. Easy to slip through if you knew where the cameras were. Jennifer parked a quarter-mile from the main entrance. He's meeting a contact at Dock 7. The ship doesn't leave for 3 hours, but he's probably going to hide on board until departure. What's the plan? We confront him, record everything, get him to admit what he did. And if he doesn't, then we turn him over to Morrison with the evidence we have. Either way, he's not getting on that ship. They moved through the port on foot, staying in shadows, avoiding the patrol routes Jennifer had memorized. The air smelled like diesel and ocean. Container cranes loomed overhead like sleeping giants. Dock 7 was at the far end. A small cargo vessel, Panamanian flag, crew already on board preparing for departure. Emma and Jennifer found cover behind a stack of containers 50 feet from the gangway. And there he was, Dr. Victor Hale, looking nothing like the arrogant physician from Riverside General. He looked small, scared, carrying a duffel bag and glancing around like he expected someone to jump out at him. "Now," Jennifer whispered. They stepped out. Hale saw them and froze. "Going somewhere?" Emma asked. Hale's face went through several expressions in 2 seconds. Surprise, fear, then calculation. "Caldwell, I don't know what you think you're doing, but—" "Save it." Emma pulled out her phone, started recording. "Just answer the question. Are you getting on that ship?" "I'm taking a vacation. That's not a crime. Fleeing the country to avoid prosecution is definitely a crime." "I'm not fleeing anything. I'm—" "Operation Red Harbor," Jennifer cut in. "Tell her what you did." Hale's expression changed. Real fear now. "I don't know what you're talking about. You used military personnel as test subjects. Unauthorized experiments. You and Sutherland. How many people died?" "That's insane. I'm a doctor. I save lives." "You killed 11 people on a helicopter 3 years ago," Emma said. Her voice was steady, but her hands weren't. "You sabotaged that aircraft. You murdered Sarah Reeves and 10 others. And you tried to kill me." "I never tried to kill you." "The frame job, the money in my account, the text messages. That was you." "That was Sutherland. He went rogue. I didn't know he was—" Hale stopped, realized he'd just admitted involvement. "This is entrapment. This is justice." Emma stepped closer. "Tell me why. Tell me why you murdered them." Hale looked between Emma and Jennifer, then at the ship behind him. Emma could see him calculating odds, running scenarios, looking for an exit. He didn't find one. "They were dying anyway," he said quietly. "The research I was doing could have saved thousands, but I needed subjects, real trauma cases. The military provided them." "The military didn't provide them. You stole them." "I requisitioned them through proper channels." "There are no proper channels for human experimentation." Emma's voice rose. "You murdered people. You destroyed lives. You ruined careers. And for what? Money? For science. For progress." Hale's composure cracked. "Do you know how many lives my research has saved? How many procedures I developed? The military uses my protocols now. They're standard care. Built on corpses. Built on sacrifice." Hale straightened. "You wouldn't understand. You're just a nurse. You follow orders. You don't innovate. You don't push boundaries. You just do what you're told and go home feeling good about yourself." Emma smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. "You're right. I am just a nurse, but I'm a nurse who survived your assassination attempt, who saved 6 lives you helped in danger, who tracked you down, who recorded every word you just said." She held up her phone. "And who's about to send this recording to every news outlet in the country?" Hale's face went pale. "You can't." "Watch me." He lunged. Emma didn't expect it. He was fast for a man his age. Grabbed for her phone. They struggled. Jennifer moved in to help, but Hale swung the duffel bag. It caught Jennifer in the face. She went down hard. Emma drove her elbow into Hale's ribs. He grunted but didn't let go. They fell. The phone skittered across the concrete. Hale scrambled for it. Emma grabbed his leg, pulled him back. He kicked her in the face. Pain exploded behind her eyes. She held on anyway. He kicked again, connected with her shoulder. She lost her grip. Hale reached the phone, grabbed it, started to run toward the ship. Emma pulled out her pistol. "Stop!" He didn't stop. She aimed, her finger on the trigger. 3 pounds of pressure was all it would take. 1 shot, he'd go down. The recording would be safe, justice would be served. But she couldn't do it. Couldn't shoot someone in the back. Even him. "Hale, stop or I swear to—" A shot rang out, but not from Emma's gun. Hale jerked, stumbled, fell forward onto the concrete. Blood pooled beneath him. Emma spun. Jennifer was on her feet, gun in her hand, blood running from her nose where the duffel bag had hit her. "He was getting away," Jennifer said. Emma ran to Hale, rolled him over. The shot had hit center mass. He was still breathing, but barely. Blood bubbled at his lips. "No, no, no." Emma pressed her hands against the wound. Stay with me. Hale looked up at her, recognition in his eyes. You're trying to save me. I'm a nurse. It's what I do. Even now? Especially now. Emma applied pressure. Because I'm better than you. Hale smiled, blood on his teeth. The recording? Emma looked around. Her phone was 3 feet away. Screen cracked, but still recording, still capturing everything. It's safe, she said. Good. Hale coughed. More blood. Make sure they know I did it for the right reasons. There were no right reasons. There are always right reasons if you look hard enough. His eyes lost focus. Tell them I was trying. He stopped breathing. Emma kept pressure on the wound for another 30 seconds before accepting it was over. She sat back, hands covered in blood for the second time in 2 days. Jennifer walked over. Is he dead? Yeah. Good. Emma looked up at her. You just killed him. I just stopped him from destroying evidence. You murdered him. I prevented a murderer from escaping. Jennifer's voice was cold. Don't pretend those are the same thing. Sirens wailed in the distance. Someone had heard the shot, called it in. Emma picked up her phone. The recording was still running. It had captured everything. Hale's confession, the fight, the gunshot, his last words. Emma stopped the recording. We need to leave. Not yet. Jennifer pulled a flash drive from her pocket. Help me upload this. Upload what? Everything. The files, the evidence, the recording. I'm sending it to 6 different news outlets simultaneously. By the time Morrison gets here, it'll be too late to bury. They worked fast, Jennifer's fingers flying over her phone while Emma kept watch. The sirens were getting closer. 2 minutes, maybe 3. Done, Jennifer said. It's out there. No taking it back now. They ran. Through the container yard, away from the approaching lights, made it to Jennifer's car and drove away just as the first patrol vehicle arrived at Dock 7. Emma's phone rang immediately. Morrison. Where are you? Somewhere safe. Caldwell, I just got a report of shots fired at the port. Please tell me that wasn't you. I can't. Damn it! Morrison's voice was strained. Is Hale dead? Yes. Did you kill him? No. Then who? Morrison stopped. The DIA investigator. Cross. She's with you. Was with me. We separated. That's a lie. Probably. Emma looked at Jennifer driving. You need to check your email. All of it just went public. The experiments, the murders, Operation Red Harbor, everything. Silence on the other end. Then Morrison spoke very carefully. What did you do? What you couldn't. I made sure the truth came out. You just committed multiple felonies. I know. They're going to come after you. I know that too. Morrison sighed. Where are you right now? Really? Emma looked out the window. They were heading north, out of the city, toward somewhere with no helicopters, no hospitals, no people who knew who she was. I'm going away for a while. Figure some things out. That's not an option. You're a material witness. I have to survive. And that means disappearing until this whole thing blows over. Emma's voice softened. Thank you for believing me, for not arresting me when you could have. Don't thank me yet. I'm still deciding if I should. Emma smiled. Fair enough. She hung up. Jennifer glanced over. Where do you want to go? I don't know. Somewhere quiet. Quiet's in short supply right now. Then somewhere loud, somewhere I can blend in. They drove in silence for a while. Emma watched the city lights fade in the rearview mirror. Thought about everything that had happened, everything she'd lost, everything she'd found. Her phone buzzed. A news alert. The story was breaking. Major outlets picking it up. Military medical experiments, conspiracy, murder. Dr. Victor Hale's death at the port. It was everywhere. Another buzz. A text from Marcus. Just saw the news. You okay? Emma typed back. Define okay. Fair. Where are you? Away. Need help? Emma hesitated, then typed, maybe later. Right now I just need to breathe. Call if you need anything. I mean it. I know. Jennifer pulled off the highway. There's a motel about 20 miles ahead. We can stop there, rest, figure out next moves. Next moves involve you testifying. I know. They're going to arrest you for killing Hale. Self-defense. He attacked me. You have the video. The video shows you shooting him in the back while he was running away. Jennifer's jaw tightened. Then I guess I'll need a good lawyer. They reached the motel. Cheap, anonymous. The kind of place that took cash and didn't ask questions. Jennifer paid for one room. They went inside. Emma sat on the bed and finally let herself feel everything. The exhaustion, the fear, the anger, the satisfaction. She'd done it. Exposed the truth. Made sure Hale faced consequences. Sarah Reeves and the others finally had justice. But it didn't feel like justice. It felt like revenge. And revenge always left a bitter taste. You should sleep, Jennifer said. Can't. Try. Emma lay back, closed her eyes, saw Hale's face. His last words. Tell them I was trying. Trying what? To justify murder? To rationalize cruelty? To convince himself he was still the hero of his own story? Emma's phone buzzed again. She almost ignored it, but the number was local. One she recognized. Mercy General, Dr. Sarah Vance. Emma answered. Hello? Emma? It's Sarah Vance. I just saw the news. About Hale. About everything. Yeah. I need you to know something. About the 6 operators you saved. Torres and Kowalski and the others. Emma sat up. What about them? They're being transferred. Military orders. Immediate effect. They're moving them to Walter Reed. Why? I don't know. But before they left, Torres asked me to give you a message if you called. What message? Vance hesitated. He said thank you. He said you saved his life twice. Once on the boat and once by exposing what Hale was doing. He said, her voice caught. He said you're the bravest person he's ever met, and he hopes you stay safe. Emma's throat tightened. Tell him I said he's welcome. I would, but he's already gone. They left an hour ago. But Emma, there's something else. What? Before they transferred him, Kowalski regained sensation in his legs. The swelling went down. The compression released. The doctors think he's going to walk again. Emma closed her eyes. That's good. It's more than good. It's a miracle. And it happened because you stabilized him correctly. Because you knew exactly what to do. Vance paused. You saved 6 lives in one night, and then you saved countless more by exposing Hale. That counts for something. It doesn't bring back the 11 who died. No, but it prevents more from dying. That has to mean something. After the call ended, Emma sat in the dark motel room. Jennifer was asleep in the other bed. Outside, traffic hummed past on the highway. Emma's phone lit up one more time. Another text. Unknown number, but this time she knew what it would say before she opened it. You did well, Lieutenant, but this isn't over. There are others, more like Hale, more like Sutherland. People who will come looking for you because of what you know, because of what you represent. Sleep well while you can, because tomorrow the real hunt begins. Emma stared at the message, waited for fear, for panic, for the urge to run. It didn't come. Instead, she felt something else, something she hadn't felt in 3 years. Purpose. She picked up her phone, opened a new message, typed 3 words and sent it to the unknown number. Let them come. Then she turned off her phone, lay back down, and finally, slept. Emma woke to sunlight cutting through cheap motel curtains and the sound of her phone vibrating against the nightstand. She'd slept 4 hours. It felt like 4 minutes. Jennifer was already awake, sitting at the small table with her laptop open. Morning. You need to see this. Emma sat up. Her body ached everywhere. What now? The story exploded. Front page of every major outlet. Congress is calling for hearings. The Pentagon issued a statement, and there's a warrant out for my arrest. Just yours? So far, you're listed as a material witness. They want you for questioning, but they're not charging you yet. Jennifer turned the laptop around. The screen showed a news broadcast. A congressman standing at a podium looking appropriately outraged. This is everywhere. Hale's operation. The experiments. Operation Red Harbor. They can't bury it now even if they wanted to. Emma walked to the window, pulled back the curtain slightly. The parking lot was empty except for their car and two trucks that looked like they'd been there for weeks. No news vans, no military vehicles. Not yet. How long do we have? Until someone figures out where we are? Hard to say. I use cash for the room, but Morrison's smart. She'll start checking motels within a 100-mile radius. So we need to move. Or we need to stop running. Emma turned to look at her. What? We exposed the truth. We won. Hale's dead, Sutherland's dead. Their operation is public knowledge. Continuing to hide just makes us look guilty. You shot a man. I stopped a murderer from escaping. There's video evidence of him attacking me. Any lawyer worth their fee can argue self-defense. And what about the classified information you leaked? Jennifer closed the laptop. That's where it gets complicated. But I have leverage. I know where more bodies are buried, metaphorically and literally. If they come after me too hard, I'll make sure everything comes out. Every name, every operation, every dirty secret. That's mutually assured destruction. That's survival. Jennifer stood. The question is what you want to do. You're not being charged. You could go back to Riverside City, resume your life. Emma almost laughed. What life? I was fired. My face is on the news. Everyone knows who I really am now. So be who you really are. Stop hiding. The words hit harder than Emma expected. Stop hiding. She'd been hiding for 3 years, hiding from her past, from her capabilities, from the knowledge that she was exceptional at something most people couldn't stomach. Her phone buzzed. Emma picked it up. Another unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her. This is Caldwell. Lieutenant Caldwell, this is Admiral Richard Brennan. I'm calling to personally thank you for your service to this nation. Emma's hand tightened on the phone. I'm not in the service anymore. I'm aware. But what you did in the past 48 hours, exposing corruption, saving lives, bringing justice to families who've waited years for answers, that's service of the highest order. With respect, Admiral, I'm probably about to be arrested. No, you're not. I'm calling to inform you that all potential charges have been dropped. You acted as a civilian in defense of others, and in the interest of national security, there will be no prosecution. Emma sat down on the bed. What about Jennifer Cross? Ms. Cross's situation is more complex, but between you and me, I think a good lawyer and the right testimony will resolve it in her favor. Brennan paused. Lieutenant, I'm also calling to extend an offer. We need people like you, people with your skills and your integrity. I'd like to offer you a position with Naval Special Warfare Medical Command, full rank restoration, command of your own unit. You'd be training the next generation of combat medics. I left that world for a reason. I know, I've read your file. The real file, not the redacted version. I know about Operation Red Harbor, about the survivor's guilt, about how you blamed yourself for deaths that weren't your fault. His voice softened. But Lieutenant, you can't save everyone. You can only save the ones in front of you, and you're better at that than anyone I've ever seen. Emma closed her eyes, thought about Torres and Kowalski, about Brennan sobbing on the deck, about 6 men who were alive because she'd stopped hiding. I need time to think about it. Take all the time you need. My number will be in your recent calls. When you're ready, we'll talk. Brennan hung up. Emma sat there holding the phone. Jennifer was watching her. What did they offer you? A job. My rank back. Everything I walked away from. Are you going to take it? I don't know. Emma's phone rang again. This time it was Morrison. Where are you? Still away. I need you to come in. Not for arrest. For testimony. Congress wants to hold emergency hearings. They need first-hand accounts of what Hale was doing. I'm not a good public speaker. You don't need to be. You just need to tell the truth. Morrison's voice shifted. Emma, what you did. I can't officially condone it, but off the record, you did the right thing. Hale would have disappeared. The evidence would have been buried. Those families would never have gotten closure. Hale's dead. Jennifer killed him. I know. I was there 20 minutes after you left. Found his body, the recording, everything. Morrison paused. The recording shows he attacked first. That changes things. Does it change things enough to keep Jennifer out of prison? Probably. If she cooperates. If she testifies. If she doesn't leak any more classified information. Morrison's tone hardened slightly. Tell her that. And tell her I'm tracking her phone right now, so she has about an hour before I show up at whatever motel you're hiding in. The call ended. Jennifer was already packing. Time to go. They drove east, away from Riverside City, toward the state capitol where the hearings would be held. The highway was empty, gray sky overhead threatening rain that never quite fell. "What are you going to do?" Emma asked. "After this is over?" "If I'm not in prison? I don't know. Maybe write a book or consult for journalists. Someone needs to keep shining light on this stuff." Jennifer glanced over. "What about you? Are you taking the Admiral's offer?" "I don't think I can." "Why not?" "Because I'm tired. I'm tired of death, of trauma, of putting people back together just to watch them fall apart again. That's medicine. That's life. I know. But there are other ways to help people, ways that don't involve flying into war zones or working on damaged ships or—" Emma trailed off. "I just want something quieter." "Quiet doesn't suit you." "How would you know?" "Because I've been watching you for 6 months. Ever since I started investigating Hale. I pulled your employment records, talked to people who worked with you at Riverside General. You know what they all said? That I was forgettable? That you were competent, reliable, but that you never seemed happy, like you were going through motions rather than living." Jennifer turned onto the exit ramp. "You weren't happy being quiet, Emma. You were just hiding." They reached the Capitol 3 hours later. Morrison had arranged hotel rooms, separate floors, federal marshals in the hallway. Jennifer was technically in custody, even though nobody had handcuffed her yet. That night, Emma couldn't sleep again. She stood at the window of her hotel room watching traffic move through the city. Her phone buzzed constantly. Messages from reporters requesting interviews, texts from former colleagues she hadn't spoken to in years, even a message from her old roommate asking if she was okay. One message stood out, from Marcus Webb. "I'm in town. Command wants me to testify, too. Want to get coffee before we face the firing squad?" Emma smiled. Typed back, "Sure." "When?" "Now. There's a place down the street still open." Emma grabbed her jacket, slipped past the marshal, who looked like he wanted to stop her but didn't, took the elevator down, found Marcus sitting at a corner table in a diner that smelled like burned coffee and ambition. "You look like hell," he said when she sat down. "Thanks. You look like a recruiting poster." "I clean up nice." He pushed a cup of coffee toward her. "Black. 2 sugars. You still drink it that way?" "Yeah, how did you remember?" "I remember everyone who saves my life." Marcus leaned back. "So, tomorrow's the big day. Ready to tell the world what happened?" "No, but I'm going to anyway." "That's the spirit." He smiled, but it faded quickly. "They're going to ask you about Operation Red Harbor, about the crash, about how you survived." "I know. You don't have to answer. You can invoke privacy, medical trauma, whatever." "No. If I'm doing this, I'm doing it all the way." Emma drank the coffee. It was terrible. "Everyone deserves to know what happened. Sarah Reeves's family, the others, they deserve the truth. Even if it destroys you?" "I've been destroyed before. I survived." Marcus was quiet for a moment. "You know what I think? I think you're the strongest person I've ever met. Not because you survived, but because you kept going after. You rebuilt yourself. You tried to have a normal life even though normal was never going to fit. And when the world needed you again, you showed up." "I didn't have a choice. Everyone has a choice. You could have ignored the call, could have stayed home, could have let those 6 operators die rather than risk exposing yourself." He leaned forward. "But you didn't, because that's not who you are. You're a protector. It's in your bones. And pretending otherwise was killing you slowly." Emma stared into her coffee. "What if I don't want to be a protector anymore?" "Then don't be. But at least be honest about why you're walking away." "What does that mean?" "It means stop telling yourself you left because of the trauma. You left because you couldn't save everyone, and that broke something inside you. But Emma, nobody can save everyone. The best we can do is save the ones we can reach." She thought about Torres, about Kowalski, about 11 people dying in fire and smoke while she helplessly watched. "I could have done more." "You did everything humanly possible. The investigation proved that. The only person who thinks you failed is you." Emma's throat tightened. She blinked hard, refused to cry in a diner at midnight in front of someone who'd seen enough of her weakness already. Marcus reached across the table, squeezed her hand once. Tomorrow, you're going to walk into that hearing, you're going to tell the truth, and then you're going to decide who you want to be next. Not who you were, not who everyone thinks you should be, but who you actually want to be. He left money on the table and walked out. Emma sat there alone, coffee going cold, thinking about choices and consequences and the weight of carrying ghosts. The hearing started at 9. Emma wore civilian clothes, simple, professional. She sat in the witness chair while cameras rolled and congressmen shuffled papers. The room was packed. Press, military brass, families of the victims. Emma spotted Sarah Reeves's mother in the third row, an older woman with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much grief. She looked at Emma and nodded once, just once. But it was enough. The questions started easy. Name, background, service record. Then they got harder. Tell us about Operation Red Harbor. Tell us what happened. Tell us why you survived when others didn't. Emma told them. Everything. The helicopter, the fire, the 11 bodies. Sarah's last words. She spoke steadily, clearly, even when her voice wanted to shake. Even when the room went so quiet you could hear breathing. When she finished, one congressman, an older man with kind eyes, leaned forward. Lieutenant Caldwell, in your professional opinion, was there anything you could have done differently that day? Emma thought about lying, thought about saying yes, thought about carrying that guilt just a little longer. No, she said. The aircraft was sabotaged. The crash was unavoidable. I did everything I could with what I had. It wasn't enough to save them all, but it was enough to try. Thank you for your honesty. They asked about Hale next, about the experiments, about how she'd tracked him down. Emma told them about Jennifer's investigation, about the evidence, about the confrontation at the port. And did you witness his death? Yes. Tell us what happened. Emma described it. Hale attacking Jennifer, the shot, his last words, the way he'd tried to justify everything until the moment he stopped breathing. Did you attempt to save him? Yes. Why? After everything he'd done, Emma looked directly at the congressman. Because I'm a nurse. Because saving lives is what I do, even when the person doesn't deserve it, even when it would be easier to let them die. I save people because that's who I am, and I won't let people like Hale take that away from me. The room was silent. Then someone in the back started clapping. Others joined. Within seconds, half the room was applauding. The chairman banged his gavel but couldn't stop it. Emma sat there, face burning, wishing she could disappear, but also feeling something else. Something like vindication, like maybe Marcus had been right. Maybe she was exactly who she was supposed to be. Jennifer testified next. Her testimony was more technical. Financial records, communication logs, the paper trail that proved Hale and Sutherland's operation. She was good, clinical, unemotional, the perfect witness. When they asked about shooting Hale, she didn't hesitate. He was armed. He had attacked me. He was fleeing with evidence that could have been destroyed. I made a split-second decision to stop him. I'd make the same decision again. Even knowing he would die? Especially knowing he would die. He murdered 17 people that we know of, probably more. He deserved to face justice in a courtroom, but preventing his escape was more important than preserving his life. It was cold, brutal, honest. The congressman didn't know what to do with that level of directness. The hearings lasted 3 days. Torres and Kowalski testified via video link from Walter Reed. Torres talked about bleeding out on a boat while Emma kept him alive. Kowalski talked about thinking he'd never walk again until Emma's stabilization gave him a chance. She saved my life, Kowalski said. Not just physically. She saved my whole future. My career. Everything. And she did it after being fired from her job, after being humiliated, after having every reason to walk away. She still showed up. On the final day, the committee released their findings. Hale and Sutherland had run an illegal human experimentation program for 4 years. At least 17 deaths directly attributable to their actions. Hundreds of others potentially affected. The committee recommended criminal charges against anyone still living who'd been involved. They recommended policy changes, oversight, accountability. And they recommended that Lieutenant Emma Caldwell be awarded the Navy Cross for exceptional heroism. Emma stood outside the hearing room after, trying to process. The Navy Cross. It was the second highest military decoration. given for valor in combat, for actions beyond the call of duty. You earned it, Morrison said, appearing beside her. 6 lives saved under impossible conditions, a conspiracy exposed, justice delivered to families who'd been lied to for years.
I didn't do it for medals. The best ones never do. Morrison handed her a folder. Your discharge is being reviewed. If you want your rank restored, it's yours. Full back pay, clean record, everything. And if I don't want it, then you walk away with an honorable discharge, a clear name, and the knowledge that you did something that mattered. Morrison smiled slightly. Either way, you win. Emma opened the folder. Inside was her complete service record, not the redacted version, the real one. Every mission, every life saved, every commendation she'd been too traumatized to accept. She'd forgotten how good she'd been, how many people she'd saved, how many times she'd been the difference between life and death. What are you going to do? Morrison asked. I don't know yet. Well, when you figure it out, let me know. I've got 3 different departments trying to recruit you. Morrison walked away. Emma stood there holding her service record, thinking about choices. Marcus found her an hour later. So, the hero emerges. I'm not a hero. The Navy Cross says otherwise. The Navy Cross says I did my job under pressure. That's not heroism, that's Tuesday. Marcus laughed. You're impossible. He leaned against the wall beside her. What's next for the famous Emma Caldwell? I have no idea. Good. That means you're free to choose anything. Emma looked at him. What would you choose? Me? I'd choose what makes you happy, not what makes you comfortable, not what's easy, but what actually makes you want to get up in the morning. He straightened. And I don't think that's being a civilian nurse in some hospital where nobody knows what you can do. So what is it? That's the question, isn't it? He left. Emma stood alone in the empty corridor, thought about Torres and Kowalski, about Brennan crying on the deck, about Sarah Reeves saying it wasn't her fault, about choosing to show up even when running would have been easier. Her phone buzzed. A text from Admiral Brennan. The offer stands. No pressure, but we could use you. Emma stared at the message. Thought about training the next generation, about preventing what happened to her from happening to others, about turning her trauma into something useful. Another message came through. This one from Dr. Sarah Vance at Riverside General. If you ever want a position here, you'd have your pick of departments. We need people who actually give a damn. A third message. From a number she didn't recognize. This is Rachel Torres, Diego's sister. He asked me to reach out. He wants you to know that you changed his life. And if you're ever in Virginia, you have an open invitation to dinner. We'd love to thank you properly. Emma sat down on a bench. Read the messages again. Thought about all the different paths in front of her, all the different versions of Emma Caldwell she could choose to become. The quiet nurse who kept her head down. The military medic who flew into danger. The teacher who passed on knowledge. The person who just lived a normal life and tried to forget. She thought about what Marcus had said. What makes you happy? Not comfortable. Happy. Emma pulled up her contacts, found Admiral Brennan's number, made the call before she could change her mind. Lieutenant Caldwell, have you made a decision? Yes, sir, but I have conditions. I'm listening. I'll take the position. I'll train your medics, but I do it my way. No politics, no cover-ups. If I see something wrong, I report it immediately. And if someone tries to silence me, I walk and I take everything public. Brennan was quiet for a moment. Those are some serious conditions. I've seen what happens when good people stay quiet. I won't do it again. Fair enough. Anything else? I want to establish a program named after Sarah Reeves and the others who died in Operation Red Harbor. A memorial program that actually means something. Better training, better oversight, better protection for people who speak up. That might be difficult to... Those are my conditions, Admiral. Take them or leave them. Another pause. Then Brennan chuckled. You know what? I like you. You've got spine. Too many people in this business don't. You've got your conditions. Welcome back, Lieutenant. Emma hung up. Sat there feeling the weight of the decision settle over her. It didn't feel comfortable. It felt right. There was a difference. 6 weeks later, Emma stood in front of 20 young medics at a training facility in Virginia. They stared at her with the kind of nervous energy that came from knowing your instructor had a reputation. My name is Lieutenant Emma Caldwell, she said. Some of you might have seen me on the news. Some of you might have heard stories. Forget all of that. Here's what matters. In this program, you're going to learn how to save lives in conditions that shouldn't be survivable. You're going to learn how to work with nothing, how to make decisions under fire, how to carry the weight of knowing you can't save everyone. She paused. Let that sink in.
You're also going to learn that being a medic isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up. It's about trying even when the odds are impossible. It's about being the person others trust when everything goes to hell. Emma looked at each of them. Some of you won't make it through this program. That's okay. Better to know now than to find out in the field. But for those who do make it, you're going to be ready for anything, because I'm not training you to be medics. I'm training you to be protectors. One of the students raised his hand. Is it true you saved 6 operators in one night? Yes. How? By remembering that my job isn't to judge who deserves saving. My job is to save anyone I can reach, and by refusing to give up even when giving up would have been easier. Emma smiled slightly. You'll learn. We start training in 5 minutes. Get your gear. They scattered. Emma watched them go. Thought about how young they looked, how unprepared, how much they'd change over the next months. Marcus appeared beside her. He was teaching the tactical side of the program. Nice speech. Very inspiring. It was honest. That's why it worked. He handed her a coffee. You look happy. It's weird. I'm not happy. I'm just less miserable. I'll take it. They stood there watching the students prepare. Emma thought about Torres walking again, about Kowalski back on limited duty, about Jennifer avoiding prison and now working as a consultant for 3 different congressional committees, about Hale and Sutherland rotting in graves nobody visited. She thought about Sarah Reeves and the others who hadn't made it, about carrying their names forward, about making sure their deaths counted for something. Emma's phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. She tensed. But this time the message was different. You did good, Ghost. Now keep doing it. Emma stared at the message. She didn't know who sent it, didn't know if she ever would. But she understood what it meant. She'd stopped hiding, started living, chosen to be exactly who she was meant to be. Flaws, trauma, and all. The students were lined up now, ready, waiting for her to begin. Emma pocketed her phone, walked toward them, toward the future, toward whatever came next, because she'd learned something in the past weeks, something important, something true. You couldn't save everyone, but you could save the ones you reached, and sometimes, in saving others, you saved yourself. That was enough. That would always be enough. Emma Caldwell had spent years being dismissed, underestimated, cast aside. But she'd never been ordinary. She'd never been forgettable. She'd just been hiding. Now she was done hiding, and the world would never underestimate her again.